day 300 of the war, and the IDF has made the announcement this afternoon that leading Hamas terrorist Mohammed Deif was indeed assassinated in an attempt made several days ago. The IDF announcement comes after Hamas previously tried to deny Deif was taken out. The IDF also released footage of the strike, which took out Hamas's number 2 in Gaza. Following the multiple high-profile assassinations, Prime Minister Netanyahu addressed the nation and warned of challenging days of war ahead, and said an existential threat Israel is facing from Iran and its terrorist proxies is alive and well. This as the Iranian leader led a funeral service for assassinated Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh and vowed revenge. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz reports.
Addressing the nation after the killing of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran and senior Hezbollah leader Fuad Monson Shukr in Beirut, Prime Minister Netanyahu had this dire message.
אזרחי ישראל, ימים מאתגרים לפנינו. מאז התקיפה בביירות נשמעים איומים מכל עבר. אנחנו ערוכים לכל תרחיש ונעמוד מלוכדים ונחושים מול כל איום. ישראל תגבה מחיר כבד מאוד על כל תוקפנות נגדנו מכל זירה שהיא.
While not taking responsibility for the attack in Tehran, Netanyahu said that Israel had delivered crushing blows to Iranian proxies over the past few days, including Hezbollah and Hamas.
סגרנו חשבון עם מוחסן ונסגור חשבון עם כל מי שפוגע בנו, כל מי שטובח בילדינו, כל מי שרוצח את אזרחינו, כל מי שפוגע במדינתנו, דמו בראשו.
The Prime Minister described the current situation as a war for existence.
מאז תחילת המלחמה הבהרתי שאנחנו במאבק מול ציר הרשע של איראן. זאת מלחמת קיום מול טבעת חנק של צבאות טרור וטילים שאיראן מבקשת להדק סביב צווארנו. בנאומי בקונגרס לפני ימים אחדים ציינתי 3 זרועות עיקריות של ציר רשע זה: חמאס, חות'ים וחיזבאללה, 3 החטים. בימים האחרונים הנחתנו מכות מחץ על כל אחת מהן.
In Tehran, Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei led prayer services today at the funeral for Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh. The body will later be transferred to Qatar for burial. The Iranian leader vowed revenge for the attack on the Palestinian leader that was carried out in the Iranian capital and at an official government residence. Khamenei said Israel had provided the grounds for harsh punishment, and it was Tehran's duty to avenge the Hamas leader's death because it occurred in the Iranian capital. Israel has not claimed responsibility for the Haniyeh assassination, but it is widely speculated that he was killed by an Israeli missile strike from outside Iran.
In response to the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh, international bodies and other nations are sounding the alarm about a potentially global escalation and speaking out about the assassination itself. Take a look at what they had to say.
Since the news broke of the assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh, international organizations and world leaders have expressed immense concerns over the potential of a bloody war erupting. Turkey, Tunisia, Lebanon, Malaysia, Pakistan, and Russia have all spoken out condemning the assassination, with protests breaking out in Turkey and Tunisia both. Qatar, which has continued to present itself as a mediator despite ties to Hamas, also condemned the assassination and asked how Israel can expect the negotiations for hostage deal when they assassinated the mediator, in the case Haniyeh. In the UN Security Council, UN Undersecretary General for Political and Peacebuilding Affairs Rosemary DiCarlo urged a diplomatic solution.
We need swift and effective diplomatic efforts towards de-escalation. This council plays a crucial role in this regard. The time is now.
China, Japan, and the UK all echoed the calls for restraint and diplomatic solutions. Nations like the United States have been significantly more supportive of Israel. In the UN Security Council, the U.S. defended Israel's right to self-defense.
We call on the Security Council to send an unambiguous message to Hezbollah by standing with Israel as it defends itself against Hezbollah's repeated attacks. We encourage members of this council with direct influence over Iran to increase pressure on it to stop escalating its proxy conflict against Israel and other actors.
Leaders from the Islamic Republic of Iran, where Haniyeh was assassinated, however, were unconvinced.
The Islamic Republic of Iran reserves its inherent right to self-defense in accordance with international law to respond decisively to this terrorist and criminal act when it deems necessary and appropriate.
Since the assassination, Islamic Republic officials have pledged to retaliate on behalf of the Palestinians, with reports that Supreme Leader Khamenei approved direct strikes in Israel in retaliation.
As the Islamic Republic weighs its responses, Israel continues to face a multi-front war on its own borders. Here to speak with us about these recent developments is Israeli-Palestinian relations expert, Colonel in the Reserves, Grisha Yakubovich. Grisha, thank you so much for joining us. We've heard a lot of concern. We've heard a lot of concern from world leaders about this leading to an all-out war. With the belligerence of the Islamic Republic, is there even a way to avoid war?
Well, I want to ask a question before I answer that. It's like, why should be a war? Nobody took responsibility about what happened in Iran. And if we go a few years back, Soleimani was assassinated, a Shia number one in Iran, and nothing happened. And suddenly, a Sunni leader that is somebody from Gaza that has nothing to do with Iran as Shias, and they are calling for a multi-arena war. So this is a question that we should think about a little bit. Is that only a reason? Is that was actually the original plan, and all they needed is to find a reason? Yes, we are facing a multi-arena war. There is a meeting going on right now, Emily. I don't know if you're aware of that, with Iranian forces, with Al-Quds force, with Hamas, with Page, Hezbollah, Ansar Allah, the Houthis, and Khazd al-Sha'ab. And I think that this meeting, I don't know when it will come to an end, but I think in the following minutes, and then we will understand what will be the response.
You know, we've seen a sort of sudden outpouring of claims that Haniyeh was a moderate, including some of these repeated in mainstream media. I'm just wondering if you can share a little bit more about who Haniyeh actually was as a leader of a terrorist organization.
Haniyeh is a nice guy from a refugee camp that lived in Shati refugee camp in the northern part of Gaza. He worked in Israel for 9 years for a guy from Ashkelon as a construction builder. And then he was one of Ahmad Yassin's, guys that escorted him, that helped him to clean, I don't know, the sweat of the head. And then somehow he succeeded to climb up. And he eventually reached the position of becoming the leader of Hamas after Khaled Mash'al, and also a billionaire. He is a guy with, he used to be a guy with blood on his hands, and he got what he deserved. And I don't know, again, we don't know who did it, but for sure he got what he deserved.
Absolutely. Last question, because we are running out of time. What are the next steps for Israel? I mean, the IDF is obviously prepared in the event of an escalation, as we've been hearing in the last few days. What is the IDF's plan in the coming days and weeks?
Well, there is I think the Air Force is in full readiness and alert with the attack abilities and defend abilities. It looks like Iran, what they are doing is exactly what they did on April, calling to Arab countries, warning them that they will not allow the IDF or the coalition forces to use their land. And I believe that this time, if it will really happen, and I have a feeling, and it's only feeling, okay, I have no information, that it will begin tomorrow morning or the night between today and tomorrow, and I hope I'm wrong, and that will never happen. But if so, I do believe that this time the IDF and the State of Israel will respond immediately, and nobody will wait until a moment that some airplane will bomb some, defense systems in Iran. That's the change. I hope so, by the way.
All right, Colonel Grisha Yakubovich, we are out of time, but I want to thank you, as always, for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.
And with tensions escalating with Hezbollah in the north, Delta Airlines and United Airlines have announced they are halting all flights to and from Tel Aviv. Here's ILTV's Lifshitz with more from Ben Gurion Airport.
Yes, Emily. So amid fears of increasing escalations in the north with Hezbollah, many airlines, including Delta Airlines, United Airlines and British Airways, have announced they are halting flights to and from Tel Aviv. An Austrian Airlines plane actually turned around shortly before it was due to land and flew back to Europe. But we have seen this many times since the beginning of the conflict. We have seen many airlines announce they are halting and then resuming flights to and from Israel. So this is nothing surprising. And in spite all of this, Ben Gurion Airport has announced that they are operating as usual and they expect to see around 70,000 passengers pass through the airport just today.
While Israel prepares for a potential multi-front war, Jews worldwide are engaged in their own battle against rising anti-Semitism. This summer, Birthright Israel is welcoming over 13,500 young Jews for a transformative journey. ILTV's Lifshitz was with one of the groups last week. Let's take a closer look.
I'm here in Jerusalem at the Kotel, and I'm here today with Taglit Birthright, a group of young Jewish adults who have come to Israel not only to bear witness of the atrocities of October 7th, but more importantly to show the resilience of the Jewish people and the importance of coming together in spite of a war. This summer, Birthright Israel, the world's largest Jewish educational tourist organization, is welcoming over 13,500 young Jews. These participants are set to embark on a transformative journey, featuring the classic 10-day free trip, volunteer opportunities, internships, and fellowship programs.
Coming here now is such a great time to be here. You really feel connected to the land, to the people, to the culture, to the religion, and that's what I think Birthright offers.
Participants visit iconic sites across Israel, strengthening their Jewish identity and connection to the land and communities worldwide. In these times of rising anti-Semitism, Birthright Israel empowers young Jews to find their pride, identity, and voice. Every participant engages in volunteering, bearing witness, and discussing the significance of being Jewish today.
Taglit is amazing in the sense that they're bringing Jews from all around the world, frankly, to visit the Holy Land, because it's so important for Jews to be connected to the origins of our culture, to the origins of our nature. If you do not see Israel with your own eyes, I feel like you're almost missing a certain aspect of being Jewish.
The Birthright Israel experience is a blend of witnessing the hardships and celebrating the joys of life in Israel. Participants experience a vast range of activities, from tasting the rich flavors of Israeli cuisine, to exploring historical landmarks, to honoring the memories of fallen soldiers. Safety is a top priority for Birthright Israel. The organization takes extensive measures to ensure the well-being of all participants. Parents can rest assured that their children are in good hands, enjoying a safe and enriching experience.
I can truly say that I feel extremely safe, and with being with our group and being with our tour guide, they do everything very meticulously. So anyone who's scared, I say don't be scared, come.
For parents watching, know that your children are not only safe but thriving. They're learning, growing, and forming a community that will stand strong against any challenge. Birthright Israel is more than a trip. It's a gift of identity, pride, and unity.
Taglit's been great. I've only known these guys for maybe like a week, and they feel like family to me. I mean, like, here I'm surrounded by people of all sorts of differing backgrounds, differing versions of Jews. I mean, religious, secular, everybody. And yet we're all united here in being in Israel. Because, I mean, this is our country. We love it here. It's the most amazing place on earth. This is the one country in the world where, regardless of how you feel about each other, it exists and is ruled specifically by the Jewish people to determine the future of the Jewish people in the best interest of the Jewish people.
So Yala, register for the Taglit winter trip now. Israel's waiting for you.
Well, it's been 300 days of captivity for some 116 Israeli hostages taken captive by Hamas terrorists on October 7th. Families of the hostages staged protests to bring attention to their loved ones. Hostage families say hope is not lost, even amid tumultuous days of assassinations and warfare spreading from Gaza to the north. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz reports.
Families of Israeli hostages staged protests and held rallies to mark 300 days since the Hamas-led attack that killed some 1,200 Israelis and kidnapped over 250 from Israeli border communities, most of them civilians. Some 116 Israelis remain in captivity, many feared dead.
I know that Carmel and the people around her have done nothing wrong, and they deserve to come home. And I know that the way to bring back all of these people is a deal. A deal must be signed. I don't know how this news affects the deal, but I really wish for all of the forces around the world that will gather in order to bring our people back home.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that despite the recent events in the region, efforts continue for a hostage for ceasefire agreement in Gaza.
It's very hard to speculate, and I've learned over many years never to speculate on the impact one event may have on something else. So I can't tell you what this means. I can tell you that the imperative of getting a ceasefire, the importance that that has for everyone remains. And we will continue to labor that for as long as it takes to get there.
After weeks of cautious progress on attempts to move forward a hostage ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas, mediating countries are saying the assassination of Haniyeh paused the process. Qatar's prime minister cast doubts on Israel's seriousness about reaching a deal. The prime minister's office has declined comment on the potential impact of the strike on the talks. Officials are quoted saying they are waiting to see how Hamas reacts.
As the world scrambles in the aftermath of the Haniyeh assassination, more than 100 hostages remain in Hamas captivity, and time is running out to bring them home. Joining us now to discuss is Daniel Lifshitz, the grandson of Israeli hostage Oded Lifshitz and former Israeli hostage in Gaza, Yocheved Lifshitz. Daniel, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. As you know, today marks 300 days in captivity for your Oded. What is being done to push forward in hostage negotiations, if anything, at this point?
I think at this point we are inside an unknown time. It's very, very difficult to understand what would be the consequences of that. Personally, I think assassination of mass murderer, archi-terrorist like Ismail Haniyeh, who is responsible for October 7, is not something that should change humanitarian crisis of 115 hostages whom are there for 300 days and feel like every day is 3. So it's like 900 days today for them. And for the Palestinians, that the Gazans should get their permanent ceasefire after releasing all the 115 hostages. I'm sure that a terrorist which is responsible of October 7 and which is not the decision maker doesn't need to bother and doesn't need to make the change.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask you, how are the other families of hostages responding to this assassination? Is it viewed by any as a diplomatic setback, or there's no real change, at least that we know of now, to Hamas's approach to these negotiations?
Look, for us, for the families, after 300 days, you understand that the feeling is horrible, no matter about anything or another. It's just devastating. We are really desperate, and we see every day that both sides agree for a deal and don't sign the deal. So also the Americans should say who are the ones who are refusing to the deal. And when I'm speaking and seeing that a country as the British Prime Minister is saying that a ceasefire should be without connecting it directly to the hostages, that is something that bothers us a lot. And if something like that would happen, that would be awful for our hostages, and we cannot accept that. So what we need to do is make the pressure of both sides. We don't need to put any new sections from the Israeli side to prevent a deal. That is very important. We have no time. We can't know what will happen to our hostages in that time. And after 300 days, we know that many of them cannot survive it. And if we'll pass more and more days, we will just have more and more dead hostages. That is something that we cannot accept anymore, not as a country, not as a nation, not as the Israeli and Jewish people who are really, for them, the value of life is one of the most important things. So we should prove that the value of life is one of the most important things for us.
Absolutely. We are out of time, but Oded, Daniel, I wanted to thank you for your time. And of course, we are all here in the studio praying for the safe return of your Oded, as well as the full recovery of Yocheved, who I know is doing well from previous interviews. Thank you so much for your time, Daniel.
Thank you.
Archeologists have uncovered one of Jerusalem's largest ancient quarries dating back to the end of the Second Temple period. This significant find in the Har Chotzvim industrial area reveals massive building stones and tools used by the Jewish population of that era.
A vast quarry, one of the largest ever discovered in Jerusalem, dating back to the end of the Second Temple period, is currently being uncovered by the Israel Antiquities Authority in the Har Chotzvim industrial area of Jerusalem. The site covers approximately 3,500 square meters and is part of an extensive quarry. During the excavation, archaeologists uncovered numerous building stones of various sizes, as well as quarrying and cutting trenches that reveal the dimensions of the quarried blocks. Most of the building stones extracted were massive rock slabs, approximately 2.5 meters long, 1.2 meters wide, and 40 centimeters thick, the archaeologists said.
לאפשרות שהאבנים האלה שימשו כחלק ממפעל הבנייה של רחובות ירושלים העתיקה בימי הבית השני, כמו למשל אבנים שאנחנו חושפים ברחוב האבן המדורג בעיר דוד ובאזורים נוספים באזור ירושלים העתיקה.
In one corner of the quarry, the archaeologists were surprised to discover an intact stone vessel, receptacle, hidden in that corner for 2,000 years.
במחצבה התגלה כלי עשוי מאבן מסוג כלי טהרה ששימש את היישוב היהודי בימי הבית השני. ייתכן שהכלי נעשה בשטח המחצבה או לחלופין הובא לכאן לאתר לשמש את החוצבים.
According to the director of the Israel Antiquities Authority, revealing this huge quarry just before the 9 days and 9th of Av, the time of year when the Jewish people the world over mourn that Jerusalem was lost in these days, is symbolic and very moving.
In a world where truth matters, stay informed with ILTV News, your source for accurate, timely, and insightful coverage from Israel. Join our community of global supporters who believe in the power of truth and the importance of Israel's story. At ILTV, we bring you the news that shapes our nation and connects us all. If you believe in Israel, if you believe in truth, this is your call to action. Become a part of the ILTV news community today. Visit ILTV.tv and subscribe now. Your support means more than ever.
And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Clear skies are expected tonight around the country, with temperatures reaching lows of around 24 degrees Celsius or 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Tomorrow we should be seeing sunny skies and hot temperatures, which will last through the weekend and reach highs of 35 degrees Celsius or 95 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channels, subscribe to our newsletter, and explore our website, ILTV.tv. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Emily Schrader. Be well, and thank you so much for watching.